right, today we're going to talk about beliefs. Now, it's human nature to try to confirm our existing beliefs rather than to challenge them. It's thinking, I'm probably right, as opposed to, well, what if I'm wrong? And this tendency is natural, and it's what we call confirmation bias.
In Daniel Crosby's book, The Behavioral Investor, he uses the example of paper versus plastic. Now, we're all asked that at the grocery store, have been thousands of times over our lives. And if you're environmentally sensitive, you may be more likely to choose paper versus plastic. But what if I was to give you some information that might challenge that belief? As such, it takes 3 times more water to make a paper bag versus a plastic bag. And on average, more people are likely to reuse a plastic bag versus a paper bag. You might be apt to make a change. Most likely it's because paper versus plastic is not something that you are emotionally vested in.
Yeah, that's a really good point. But what if I were to give you the example of gun control? Now, just hearing me say that, you probably tensed up a little bit, or your facial expressions changed, or maybe your heart rate even jumped a little bit. The reason for that is because something like the gun control debate, you're more emotionally attached to. Whether one side or the other, it doesn't really matter. And if I were to give you statistics that supported your beliefs on gun control, you'd say, yeah, that's great, that's exactly right. Whereas if I were to give you statistics that were to challenge those beliefs, you're actually likely to dig your heels in even more and hold on to those beliefs, as opposed to considering, well, what if I am wrong? And why is this? It's because of the example of paper versus plastic and gun control. When we're talking about things that we agree with, we are more likely to evaluate them rationally, and if it's something that we disagree with, we're much more emotional about that.
And so anytime you have a belief that you're passionate about, you're more likely to hunker down and stay within that belief. And something that I know I'm passionate about, and most of you listening to this out there are as well, is money. And so it might be whether you think the market is going to go up because of the next election, or where it's bound for a crash because it's at a high point. You are very unlikely to view things with an open mind and make a rational decision versus an emotional decision when it comes to money, because money is very emotional. It's something that obviously supports our lives and our lifestyle, and allows us to do a lot of the things that we enjoy. So one of the most powerful words, 3 words in the English language when it comes to investing are "I don't know." And just being open to the fact and realizing that you don't have some advantage over the other millions, hundreds of millions of market participants throughout the world, that you don't have some special insight that's only available to you.
Yeah, that's something to think about, is that you're one investor amongst the entire global landscape of hundreds of millions of people out there. And so embracing this idea of "I don't know" can actually be a very good thing. It might come unnaturally for you, especially if you're finding yourself challenging your existing beliefs, but also think of it this way: the words "I don't know" may be the most profitable words that you could say.